Coming up on the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
Very rarely will I say blue fruits because there's one blue fruit in the world. So,
That we know.
If you achieve Master of Wine, do they give you a tiara and a scepter or a pair of stiletto heel boots and a riding crop? What is it? Come on, you're a master.
I would be the worst at hot ones because I actually can't stand spicy foods. I just like the idea of trying.
Your head explodes and your palate is ruined.
I discovered those cannabis seltzers. Dude, those are tasty.
I think you might be the first person to have ever said the word pointillism on my podcast.
And now, the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
The cell phones have been silenced. The wine is poured. We pour the wine, then we sip the wine, and eventually we'll tell you what we're sipping. It's a whole thing. And just like that, the podcast begins. The Tall Mike Wine Podcast. The wine podcast that's not all about wine. The wine podcast like no other. Heard in 83 countries on 6 continents and in 48 of these United States. Coast to coast, from Santa Rosa, California, to Maple Valley, Washington, from Faribault, Minnesota, to Pataskala, Ohio. Yes, the upper Midwest always keeps it real with names. I'm your host, Mike Stone. Thanks for finding me, wherever you are. Now lend a hand in keeping the show commercial-free. You can become a sponsor of this podcast for as little as $3 a month. If you like the podcast, if you like me, if you enjoy wine and conversation, click the link in the show notes. It's either sponsorships or I have to start my own meme coin, whatever a meme coin is. I hear it's a big deal. So sponsorships, it is. And I thank you for your support. If, on the other hand, this is your first time checking out the show, take note. There's 4 years worth of previous episodes you have missed, but you can scroll down and listen to them all. Some great and fun conversations have happened, including some great wine notes. Speaking of previous episodes, my guest this time around was a guest way back in November of 2021, the first year of the podcast. And once again, joins me in the Vintner's Room at Nicholson Ranch. She is an award-winning wine journalist who writes for a variety of publications and websites. She's also the former managing editor of the Wine Enthusiast magazine. She holds a diploma level certification from the Wine and Spirits Educational Trust and teaches at the Napa Valley Wine Academy, and I'm sure there's a lot more. That's why I've invited her back on the show to get up to speed with Stacy Briscoe. Hello and welcome back.
Hi.
Did I get everything right?
Yes. Although I did not know that I was an OG guest on the podcast.
You're from the first year.
I didn't know that.
Well, you didn't know that. You didn't know that until I told you, and you didn't know it back then because back then it was the first year of the podcast,
I guess.
And I didn't know I was going to just keep doing it because it's fun.
Yeah.
So you were here first year. Now you're here. This is actually the beginning of the 5th year.
Oh my God.
Of the podcast. I strive for accuracy in the intros. You are the former managing editor of Wine Enthusiast.
Yes.
When you were here before, you'd been an editor. I think you maybe had just been appointed an editor, and then not long after that, you became the managing editor of the print edition of the Wine Enthusiast. What happened? Walk me through.
So I left my position back in October of 2024, and since then, I've been just flying my freelance flag while I look for my next big opportunity. So I've got bylines in 750 Daily, Guild Somm, Somm Journal. I always joke if it seems like I'm everywhere. Well,
everywhere is a good place to be because the opposite of being everywhere is being nowhere, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you get to host their podcast when you worked for them?
I did a couple of times.
It's one of the most popular wine podcasts.
Actually, my first assignment when I first started working there, I guess it was back in 2021, I did a piece on, it was for, actually we're in March right now.
Women's History Month.
Yeah. And wow, I can't remember the author, but it was this author and she wrote a book about the history of females in wine and winemaking.
Okay.
And that was my first assignment as the senior editor. That was a really interesting one. You want an amusing anecdote?
Yes.
She was the one who told me that it was until, someone's going to fact check me on this. It was until like the 70s or 80s in France, and women were not allowed in the cellar during certain times of the month because they thought it was going to spoil the wine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But what about Veuve Clicquot? You know, women in wine go way back.
I know.
The woman who put the bubbles in champagne, right?
Yeah.
Veuve Clicquot invented the whole riddling thing, didn't she?
Someone's going to fact check us on this.
That's okay. It's a podcast.
Yeah, so I remember
There's
doing that.
people all over the world telling huge lies right now about everything, and nobody's fact-checking them.
But yeah, so I did the podcast a couple of times. That was fun. I like doing podcasts.
Okay. Well, welcome back to mine. I'm glad to have you here. We're going to taste some wine, but first I'm going to hand you another stack of the official Tall Mike Wine Podcast coasters. Oh. Because I gave you some when you were here before. Do you remember? Do you still have them? Do you remember me giving them to you?
Yeah.
She says, with a weird tone in her voice.
Yeah, totally.
These are the official coasters.
These are the only coasters we use in my house.
There you go. That's what I want to hear. And if you want your very own set of official Tall Mike Wine Podcast coasters, you may email me at tallmikewine@gmail.com. Oh, and here, an opener for you if you don't have enough wine openers. This is the official Nicholson Ranch wine opener. We do the show when I have a live guest here at Nicholson Ranch because this is where I work. And my boss, Deepak, is gracious enough to say, sure, you can host people at the winery.
Did I talk about this the last time? If so, you can edit it out. But we almost got married here, my husband and I.
You did not tell me that.
Yeah. It was between here and where we actually got married, which in Los Gatos. We got married at Testarossa Winery, but we came here and we were very close to getting married here.
You had a fairy tale winery wedding.
Yeah, we did.
What year was that?
2013.
Oh, okay. Wow, you guys have been married a while.
Yeah.
You must have been just children back then.
Yeah, we were younger than we are now.
It's funny how that works, right?
Yeah.
What happened? We got old.
I mean, it happens to some people. It doesn't happen to most people in my house, but you know.
Wait, what doesn't happen to them?
We don't age in the Briscoe household.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you are very youthful looking. You could probably walk into any high school and just walk around and nobody would say, excuse me, why are you here? You're an adult. The sound you're hearing right now is me swirling my glass on the table. We've opened a couple of bottles of wine and we're going to taste the first one. And here's what I can tell you about the first wine. I've got my notes here. I purchased it at the winery in Paso Robles on a trip there in November of 2023, and I had a good time there. The winery is called Paix sur Terre. Do you know what that means in French?
Land of peace?
Peace on earth.
Oh, so close.
You got it. We'll give you the ding, ding, ding.
I don't speak French. Like Spanish, Italian, yes, and then French just... I've never studied it.
But, you know, there are words.
I was trying to, decrypt the Latin.
Yeah, exactly. Paix sur Terre is the name of the winery. It's run by a guy named Ryan Pease, and he's down there in Paso Robles. And I visited the winery. Christopher was my host. I think that was his name, a young man who had just turned 21. He'd been working at the winery behind the scenes, and then when he turned 21, they finally let him start to pour for people. And the wine in our glass is called Been Away Too Long, Denner Vineyard, Mourvèdre, which is one of the, I would say, slightly on the obscure side grapes. You don't see a lot of wines made just from 100% Mourvèdre. It's a lot of times used in those GSM blends that, of course, they make a lot of in Paso Robles, but this is all by itself. It's got a beautiful label that was done by a guy named Jonathan Blythe, and you'll have to look at my Instagram to see a picture of the label. Would you describe the label for us, Stacy? What do you see?
It sort of looks like a scary treehouse.
Okay, yes. Scary treehouse. But there's a lot of things in the treehouse. There's a lot of imagery.
But the things that are in there look like zombies. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this is like a magic eye and now like some psychotherapist is going to be like analyzing me because I see creepy things in here.
There's a lot going on in this label, and it's pretty cool. I think part of the reason that the labels are a little out there is because the winery is, I think, maybe Ryan, the owner, is a Deadhead. He might be a fan of the Grateful Dead because Been Away Too Long is a lyric in a Grateful Dead song, and there's a few other songs and names that coincide with names of the wine. So I think we have some hippy-dippy stuff going on here.
Yeah, that explains a few things that I'm seeing right here.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's a bunny rabbit. There's a train.
There's a wide range.
What else can we see?
For what defines cool.
There's a guy down here with a big blue nose. Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that a nose? I thought it was like an angel.
I think it's a guy with a big blue nose.
But do you see how that could be an angel?
Yeah, it might also be an angel, man. And then there's a dude in the tree. There's another dude.
And do you see the guy drowning?
There's other people.
He's like...
There's somebody in the water at the bottom.
And like, I'm not sure what's happening to that bunny. Like,
this is one of those things, back in my earlier days when I was somebody who liked to partake of the wacky tobacco, it could be one of those things you could just stare out for a few hours and go, whoa, man, that's really cool. And it's a textured label. It's not glossy. It's matte. Textured. It's pretty cool.
See, now you told me that was a nose, and now I can't not see a clown. But before I was seeing like a peaceful angel. Now I'm disturbed.
I'm sorry I spoiled it for you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the wine itself.
Okay.
In the glass, it's purple. It's got a nice dark ruby color. Would you agree?
Kind of garnet. It's
okay.
But you know what? I always get...
you want a piece of white paper to hold it over?
Yeah.
There you go.
Do this WSET
now
stuff.
It's official.
I mean...
You can tell me what the color is.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now I kind of see the purple
it's
here.
It's pretty purple.
Yeah. Okay.
Me. I think it's purple because, relatively speaking, this is still a fairly young wine.
It is.
Even though it comes from the 2021 vintage. And again, it's 100% Mourvèdre. What do you smell?
For me, Mourvèdre always has this kind of earthy undertone, fresh turned soil kind of a smell.
Mm-hmm. I definitely have some of that. Yeah. I don't know if it's freshly turned up soil. It's more like, to me, it's more of a dusty, almost like drying out soil.
Oh, I just passed a guy that was shoveling fresh soil into his truck. It smelled like this.
Okay.
Because it has that leafy quality to it, too.
So we got some soil. We get some leaves. I definitely get like some dried out cherries, dark cherries.
And this is one of the few wines where I would say like black and blue fruits. Mm-hmm. Very rarely will I say blue fruits because like there's like one blue fruit in the world. So, you know.
That we know.
We're
talking about blueberries. In case you weren't sure.
In case anybody else was thinking of something. You know what? I'm a very California girl. So if there is a blue fruit out there that is not like American made, please let me know.
It's very tasty. A little bit of tannin on the finish for sure.
It's juicy.
It's juicy, but it's got a nice, slightly, I'd say the tannins are like about a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, they're chalky, but they melt quite nicely.
Yeah, it's tasty. Mm-hmm. What do you want to pair it with?
Oh, like a venison, you know, like because they're like seared raw. They're also kind of purple in the
That's true.
And they go well with berry sauce, like a wild berry reduction kind of a thing.
Right.
Then you can pull out more of the fruits from that. So you have that earth fruit complement.
Or maybe some duck.
Duck is
some nice earthy duck.
Duck is a little gamey, and it pairs better with like orange. Actually, duck would go really well with a Grenache, the sister to Mourvèdre.
Okay, I'll take your advice. This is the beauty of wine. We can sit here and talk all day about yes, no, this would work. No, I don't think that would work.
And it's all like so subjective. It's like what you like and what you don't like or what you're used to.
That's what I tell people that come here and I pour wine for them. Inevitably, somebody will say, what would you pair this with? And I have things I tell people I pair things with. I say, I pair this Pinot with salmon.
Yeah.
And I pair this one with Thanksgiving dinner. But I say mostly you should just drink what you like and eat what you like.
Yeah.
Because guess what? The thing that made you crave this wine is also helping you crave certain foods, and you will probably already be doing your own food and wine pairing in your head.
This is true.
Don't overthink it.
Exactly.
Because if you go on an effort to create that beautiful marriage where the angels will sing because you've paired the right wine with the right food, you've probably compromised on one or the other. You might not be drinking what you want, or you might not be eating what you want. Right?
This is true. I only got into wine because I started thinking about wine as like the extra ingredient in my dinner, you know, like what will go well with this kind of a thing. And so that's how I started studying about wine in the first place. But I was just talking to some other folks. I'm like, you know, all of this like wine education that I've done and now being in the wine industry for like 10 years and writing about wine.
Right.
I think like at the end of the day, really what's happened is I've just become a more discerning wino. So now I not only, you're taking my picture.
I'm taking your picture for
Not
the Instagram.
only do I have preferences about what food would go with this wine or what wine would go with this food, I'm also like when we're planning our meals, I'm like, it has to be this wine. You know, like it has to be this wine that goes, because like I know the flavor profile now so well. I'll go out and I'll buy wine. And my husband's like, why are you buying wine? We have a cellar full of wine. And I'm like, yeah, but there's nothing in there that I want. I want this specific wine.
Is this like walking into your closet in the morning and saying, I don't have anything to wear?
I have 50 pairs of Converse.
Okay. Then you always have a pair of Converse
I have
to wear, but you're not wearing Converse today.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you are.
I
You've
am,
got
but they're just like a funny color because
high top Chuck Taylors. They're kind of a cream color. Yeah. You're wearing a cream colored sweater.
Yeah, and so is my scrunchie. So my point is that
I can't see the scrunchie. There's the scrunchie.
Yeah. So,
by the way, the new color on the hair is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
It's sort of the same color as this wine.
I call it Cherry Swallow. It's like a deep rosé. But yeah, so my point is that, sometimes you have 50 pairs of Converse, but then you find yourself wearing this really unique color and you're like, well, damn, if only my shoes could match that. So it's the same thing with wine when you're like, I really got to have this wine.
Specific wine.
Yeah.
All right. You like this?
Yeah.
Great. Somebody at the Wine Enthusiast gave it 92 points.
Was it me? No, it wasn't me.
It was not you. It was Matt.
Oh, Matt Ketman. Yeah,
Matt Ketman. Matt, who has 2 T's in his first name, 2 T's and 2 N's in his last name.
Yep.
He's all about the double consonants.
Yeah.
Matt says dark berry, cocoa, warm leather, and baking spice aromas converge on the inviting nose of this single vineyard bottling. Hearty berry and dried dark cherry flavors meet with cracked pepper on the intense palate. Go along with that.
I get a lot of pepper, but I'm not going to tell somebody their tasting note is wrong.
No, because, again, it's all subjective.
It is.
And I think 92 points is pretty fair for this wine. Now let's talk about your WSET credentials.
Ooh.
When you were here before, you were studying for the diploma level. I myself have gone up to the level 2, which I feel like, okay, I got level 2. Level 3, if I want that, I'm going to have to actually start working. And at my age, what good is the level 3 going to do for me? But you are diploma level, which is way up the ladder and takes a lot of time and hard work to achieve. Are you studying for the Master of Wine?
I am.
That's kind of the ultimate, right?
Yeah.
For getting the level 2 WSET, I got the lapel pin. If you achieve Master of Wine, do they give you a tiara and a scepter or a pair of stiletto heel boots and a riding crop? What is it? Come on, you're a master, right?
Honestly, I think I just took a wine hobby a little too far.
But you're continuing to go through the steps, right?
Yes, I know. It's just a kind of a joke of mine, but this is like definitely a huge, big challenge. I will say, like, you want to talk about the diploma first. I guess I was studying it while I came here the first time.
Yeah, you were on your way towards the diploma. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then you got it.
And then I got it.
We talked about that. And you
okay.
got it.
People always ask what all is involved in that, and that is a pretty fairly involved programs. I always say, it's a leap from level 2 to 3, but then it's like a skydive off a high rise going from 3 to diploma because you have 6 separate units separating viticulture and winemaking into one unit, business of wine into a second unit. Third unit is still wines of the world. I kid you not, the textbook for that is 1,000 pages because it's literally all the still wines around the world.
Well, there's a lot of wine around the world.
Yeah, so that's the biggest exam, and you have to taste through, what was it, like 12 wines in the morning, and then I forget how many essays in the afternoon. So that's the big exam, and then you have one for fortified and one for sparkling, and then you have to write a thesis statement. Some people, it takes them many years just to get through the program. I always say I was lucky because I had COVID on my side and I had already invested in the program. So I was, I already knew how to knit and make bread, which everybody else was doing during COVID. So I was
remember those times everybody learned how to crochet and bake sourdough bread.
And I was a nerd in high school, so I already learned how to do all that stuff. So I did that, and it probably took me about 18 months. And I don't say that lightly. It was very involved. I got a pin.
Right. You got
Since you're asking about hardware, I got a
pin.
And I got to go to London and do the graduation ceremony. So that was fun because I had never been to London before. This is really funny, but when I walked on stage, I took forever that morning to try to decide what I was going to wear.
Which color Converse you were going to wear with the
dress.
I
was really close to just slipping on some Converse because I was so frustrated because it was cold in London. And so you're like, well, do I wear something cute and freeze? Do I wear something that goes with a jacket? Like all of these things, whatever. So I picked out my outfit and I get on stage to get my handshake and my pin and get my photo taken with the guy, the president. I don't know.
The Grand Poobah.
Yeah. And I walk on stage and he shakes my hand and he goes, I really like your boots.
Oh.
So I was like, good. I guess
you got a special,
grab the right outfit.
You got a special nod.
Yeah.
From the Grand Poobah.
Yeah, so that was my ceremony.
That's for your diploma level.
That was for my diploma.
Okay.
And then, I decided start the Master of Wine program. So I made it, there's 3 stages, but people always kind of forget about the third one. So I made it past the first stage. I'm considered a stage 2 student or candidate. It's a lot more stuff. Mm-hmm. And my thing is I'm trying, and I will try, and I will see how I go. But I've already learned so much just going through stage 1 and as far as I have in stage 2. And, wine knowledge is not lost on me. So this is going to sound like very, Oscar nominee, but like it's an honor just to be in the program and like learn from a lot of experts and be able to have these resources. And I was just telling somebody else, I'll be having a conversation and it's like, talk to me about the pH of your soil. Oh, you want to talk about the SO2 in your tanks? Awesome. And I'll be reading these technical articles, and the fact that I can follow them along, I'm like, cool, this is great. I'm definitely smarter than I was a few years ago. I think it's just for me, I like to learn these things because I like to talk to the people behind them. And so I feel like the more I understand what their business is about, whether it's viticulture, winemaking, marketing, whatever it is, the more I understand that, the better conversations I can have, and then the better I can do my job, which is to tell those stories.
How many masters of wine are there in the world?
A couple hundred.
A couple hundred in the whole world?
Yeah.
That's not bad. So we're talking about an accreditation given by an organization called the Wine and Spirits Educational Trust. Notice we haven't used the word SOM.
Right.
Because the other, probably more well-known because of the movies, accreditation organization that has to do with wine is the Court of Master Sommeliers. Mm-hmm. Would you tell me what you think the big differences are?
Sure. Just to kind of be clear. So I have my diploma through the Wine Spirit Education Trust. The Master of Wine program is through the IMW, which is the Institute of the Masters of Wine. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Court of Master Sommeliers. And so those are 3 different organizations that have 3 different accreditations. This happens all the time. Even when I teach lower level WSET classes, people will walk in at level 1, level 2, and they'll think they're going to walk out with some kind of SOM situation attached to them. I have to explain straight away that the WSET is not your first step towards a sommelier certification. But the way that I explain it, because even sorry, I love you, Mom and Dad, but sometimes my dad still explains me to other people as a SOM. Oh. So the thing is that to be a sommelier, it's very, very service oriented. Mm-hmm. And so a big part of the study is about how to serve people, how to present wines in a restaurant, how to engage with consumers. Not all, but many sommeliers are in either in the restaurant business, or they're buyers for stores or restaurants and things like that. And so all of that knowledge really does come in handy. When you talk about the WSET and also the Master of Wine, it's a lot more kind of, I don't want to say theory based because that makes it sound like it's like, oh, it's just the theory of wine.
It's not real.
Yeah, but it's a lot more of the academia behind it. Mm-hmm. And so you spend a lot more time writing. The exam for the WSET, like I said, there is a tasting component, but there is a written component, and the tasting component is all written itself. I should probably add that. Whereas with the sommeliers, you like you said in the movies, you always see them, they stand up and they're presenting their tasting notes in real time,
right?
Which is freaky for me. I'm like, I need a pencil and an eraser. I will say I do love, sorry, I'm about to plug another podcast, but I really do love listening to SOMs do a verbal deduction like that, because for me, practicing things for the MW, what I need to write down is basically what they're saying. It's that chronological thought of like, because I'm tasting this, I'm deducing this. Mm-hmm. This is my evidence, and this is what I'm, and so they're going through that evidence. And so I love when the Guild Somm has their tasting podcast.
That's the Guild Somm podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I've never tuned in.
Oh, you should. I mean, you should at least listen to the one. Like they have a lot of great.
It's a little too stiff for me.
No, listen.
Wine podcasts can be kind of stiff for me. No. That's why I created this one, so we can have fun, we can laugh.
So that's why I like the tasting ones, is because the host, Chris Tangi, he does a really good job of making people feel comfortable, and people are nervous and like they mess up all the time. And so it's really fun to follow the logic and then see where like maybe they made a left-hand turn, and like, did you make that left-hand turn with them? Or were you like, no, person, like your logic is skewed. So it's almost like playing a little game.
Maybe I should have him on the podcast.
So I told somebody that I knew that I'm really someone if I could be a guest on the Guild Som podcast doing a tasting. And now that I'm throwing it out there, and then I want to be a guest on Hot Ones. And if I can
you want to do the hot wing thing?
If I can be on those two shows, I will know that I am truly someone.
This
in
is your
world.
dream now.
Yes.
You want to be on the Guild Som podcast. What's his name? Chris Tangi?
Yeah.
Come on, Chris. We know you want Stacy Briscoe because she's somebody, it'll just cement your reputation as having the best people on your podcast. Hot Ones, I can't help you. I don't know.
No, and you know what? I would be the worst at Hot Ones because I actually can't stand spicy foods. I just like the idea of trying.
Your head explodes and your palate is ruined.
What can I say?
No more wine for you.
What can I say?
To sum it up, WSET is all about knowledge of the world of wine and the different grapes that grow in certain parts of the world and winemaking techniques and different soils and things like that. The Court of Master Sommeliers is, I'm sorry, you brought me the wrong glass.
No, because they do have, I don't want to put that out there because they do have like a very strong theory portion well. My point is that they focus on they have a stronger focus, I should say, on the hospitality part of it.
People come here and they say, how long have you worked here? And I say, I've worked here almost 8 years. What did you do before that? Oh, I managed wine programs in restaurants for about 20 years. Mm-hmm. And then they say, are you a som?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's not really, yes, if you take the classic definition of the word sommelier.
Yeah.
That's the guy that brings the wine into the restaurant and should be able to tell you about the wines, right? Mm-hmm. That's it. That's the very basic definition of that term. So when I was working in those restaurants, I was the sommelier.
Sure.
Right? Because I bought the wine. I can tell you all about this wine because I bought it and put it on the list. Mm-hmm. I think in some ways it's all been kind of overblown.
Yeah.
What classes are you teaching at the Napa Valley Wine Academy?
So my main gig is teaching actually the higher level 3. I do that mostly online. And then every once in a while I'll go in person and teach levels 1 or 2 and occasionally a level 3 as well. The answer is all of them.
Okay, that's good. Now let's talk about the business of wine.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if you remember when you were here before.
Clearly I don't.
And I said, you write about the business of wine, and I have to tell you, I love wine. It's one of my favorite things. I drink a lot of wine. I talk about wine all day here at work. But the business of wine, I'm just not into the business of wine. And you said, no. The business of wine is so fascinating.
It is.
Talked about that. Now, we chatted in 2021. There had been...
I should have listened to this before.
A little uptick in the industry after the COVID year, 2020. And everybody had their vaccines. Life was good. Then in 2022, 2023, etc., things began to decrease.
Okay.
And this has been the main topic of conversation in winery circles. Where are all the people? Tourism is down. Sales are down. The baby boomers are dying off. The younger generation is not drinking as much. You'd think if anyone needed a drink, it would be the younger people. But I guess they have White Claw.
Ew.
Or they can have a lovely evening staying in and popping a few gummies. What can you tell us from all the sources you have? Where does the wine business go from here?
I don't think there's a right answer to that.
No, I just want your theory. I just want you to tell me what the buzz is out there in the world. Because to put it very simply, we had this big cell of the population that moved through wine for a good, solid several decades and helped the wine business grow and grow and grow and grow. This is the baby boom. They had a lot of money. They loved wine. And the wine business got huge. And now, coinciding sort of with the end of COVID, that sector of people started aging out. We have calls from people in our wine club on a regular basis. I have to cancel my subscription because my doctor says I can't drink wine anymore because of the medications I'm on for my blood pressure.
That's fair.
So people are getting older and cannot drink wine anymore. So a lot of the baby boomers, I'm not saying they're dying, but some of them are. They're also not able to drink as much wine, and this has basically allowed the wine business to grow the way it has. And now there's not another generation coming up after them. Maybe the Gen Xers are drinking a lot of wine, but are the millennials drinking a lot of wine? And are the Zoomers drinking a lot of wine? They're not. So tell me what you are hearing out there in the big bad world of all the people you're talking with all the time.
I mean, I'm hearing the same things you are, honestly. You know, there's the whole conversation about wine and health and the WHO. And
right, that too. Oh, you can't drink wine anymore. It causes cancer.
All of these things. It's funny because I kind of knew you were going to ask me about this, and I still don't have anything really prepared. But
just go. Just free associate. Just start putting some words together.
So for me, it's hard because I don't know if we talked about this before. Before I was in wine, I was a health and fitness instructor.
I remember.
And so I have two sides of my coin where I understand a lot of the reasons. You tell me somebody can't drink wine because their doctor told them not to. Please listen to your doctor.
Yes.
You tell me that you can't drink wine because it affects whatever it is you need to do during the day or at night or whatever it is. Like, please take care of your body. Listen to your body.
Yes.
But I think maybe the amount of negativity towards the wine industry or alcohol industry in general is in some outlets taken to an extreme where it's being put in this place of evil. I always remember the commercial for Tanqueray where the guy's shoving a bunch of shrimp in his mouth. And it says, remember, what's true for shrimp cocktail is true for all cocktails, always in moderation. And so I think...
I love that. I don't remember that ad at all.
I love that commercial.
But I like that idea.
And I actually wrote an article about this. It was one of my last articles for Wine Enthusiasts. I would never put alcohol in a negative light, but I think there are examples of how it can be used negatively. But we could say the same thing about fast food. We could say the same thing about fatty foods. We could say the same thing about a lot of different things. Right now, people are picking on alcohol. And that being said, I'm a very proud millennial. Okay. I took a 90s spin ride the other day. I knew all the words. Okay. So I'm of that generation that is not every night is cocktail night. Not every night is a wine night. I discovered those cannabis seltzers. Dude, those are tasty. And they're nice to just like relax. And yeah, you don't get a hangover the next day. So that's your bag. That's your bag. But am I going to drink one of those every night? Also, no.
Okay. Right. You have, like I said, you have choices.
I have choices. I'm the girl with 50 pairs of Converse. So right. I encourage and promote people to try not just different types of wines, but try different types of beverages. I just wrote an article about vermouth. I knew nothing about vermouth. Now vermouth is like super exciting for me. How long will that last? I don't know. Maybe forever, maybe not.
If you scroll back on my page with all my episodes, if you go like 2 or 3 episodes back, there's the truth about vermouth. With the bartender from Marin County, who's really a vermouth guy. He's very vermouth forward.
Oh, from Marin? Oh, I need to visit him.
From Marin, you need to go see him.
Yeah.
Jeff Burkhart.
Okay.
Who is a bartender in Marin.
Cool.
He writes columns too. So you guys would get along.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the solution for wineries, just because we're on a podcast and we should talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What can wineries do to start appealing to younger people and not scare them away by all of this, all the pageantry and all the tradition and all the, you can't use that glass, you have to use this glass. Oh, you didn't sniff it enough. Or, oh, what do you smell? Do you smell, cut garden hose? All that stuff that scares some younger people away.
So first of all, I hope nobody is still doing any of those things that you just said, because that sounds so old-fashioned to me. That sounds so old-fashioned to me.
But it's out there in movies and TV. You see that stuff. And I think people that are younger are going to be like, oh, those wine people are just stiff.
Maybe so. Maybe I'm a millennial. My parents are boomers. My parents don't drink. But if maybe like my parents were the kind of person to drag me to wine country when I was a kid, I might have bad associations with like being stuck in a corner while my parents were drinking and having a good time. You know what I mean? So I can't speak for everyone. But honestly, I'm going to go back to what I was saying as a wine instructor is wine should be fun. Mm-hmm. It should be fun. If you want to engage any normal human, you want your product to be fun. You want to find the joy in that. And so what is the joy in your wine? Is it the fact that you're got cute little pigs and cows running around? Like, take them outdoors and show them the cute pigs and dogs and everything that's running around your farm. Have people that can tell the story behind the desk to tell the story and tell the story. Don't just like give them an anecdote or read off of a sheet. Engage them in some storytelling. And honestly, I'm going to summon my husband because he's not a wine person, and he drinks wine, but he's not like a wine person.
He's not one of us.
He's not one of us. No, but I love going to wine countries and things with him because his question will always be, okay, but what else is there to do? Because I can only do maybe 2, 3, if he's lucky, wine tastings before he's wined out.
Yeah.
So what else do you do? Do you have cool hiking trails nearby that you can, pack people a picnic and say, here, take a mini bottle out with you, or take the hike and then come back and have lunch on our grounds, like whatever. Can you work with the local cycle shop? Say like, hey, like we partner with them, go rent a bike, ride around town, then come back here for refreshments. What else is there to do besides drink? I myself, honestly, I'm a wine taster for sure, but I cannot day drink. So like sitting out on the patio, noon in the hot sun, drinking wine,
right?
Can't do it. So like, what else is there to do?
Okay, I like that. What else is there to do to appeal to a slightly younger and maybe not so wine-focused
exactly
audience?
And I think we were talking about sommeliers and being leaders in hospitality, regardless of what your title is, if you're sommelier, steward, hospitality manager, whatever it is, first of all, when people come into your facility, don't judge them by how they look. Okay. First and foremost, whether if you see somebody that's older and you're thinking like, sweet, they have money, I'm going to sell to them. Or, like somebody younger comes in and you're going to be like, oh, crap, it's a Zier, they're not going to buy anything,
right.
Whatever. Don't assume. Have the conversation, figure out who just walked in the door and what they're interested in.
Yeah.
Are they interested in day drinking? Okay, let them day drink to,
right.
Whatever is to safety. Are they there to taste and to learn? Great. Maybe get the guy who is the wine educator to pour their wines and walk them through a more educational tasting. Are they there just to sip and chat with their friends? Okay, pour them the flight, leave them the heck alone. Figure out what it is that they want and then give it to them.
Yeah, it's meeting people where they are. A lot of what we do here at the winery, and I try and tell people this, is figuring out why they're here and then how best to facilitate that specific thing. Because some people are here to hear all about the French oak barrels and want to know about the soil pH and all that stuff. But some people are just, it's wine, right? We drink some, we get a little buzzed. Yeah. That's why we're here.
Yeah. And that's fine if that's what you want to do.
Nobody gets turned away. Even if they say, like a lot of people do when they walk in the door, a lot of times I greet people in the tasting room. One of the first things they say to me is, and it's almost like a confession, they say, I don't know anything about wine. As if, like,
right.
As like they just want to be upfront about it.
Yeah.
So if I have to kick them out, then I'll kick them out. I say, I know a few things. I can tell them to you. And then you will know some things about wine.
There you go.
And away we go.
There you go.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Well, thank you for giving me your 2 cents on the current wine industry conundrum. Now it's time to taste the next wine, which I have poured in your glass for you.
Wait, I didn't see the label of this one.
Oh, you got to look at the label. Describe the label.
It is a rainbow.
It's a rainbow. And the name of the wine is P&S. And the rainbow is quite long and tall. And then there are the letters P and S. And I think there's supposed to be something a little bit... A little bit...
Yeah, okay.
Something... so the guy that owns this winery, this is another winery that
it was a guy, right?
visited on my travels. This is November of 2022. I visited Walla, Washington. I actually went there for a few years in a row. And you can scroll back and find the episodes from Walla. And I brought you a hat.
I do still have the hat.
So I visited this winery, Time and Direction. It's in downtown Walla, Washington. And I had met Steve, the owner, earlier in the day because he was actually working in a tasting room. Because this is how it is. If you are a winemaker and owner of a very small winery, you might actually be working in a tasting room down the street to pay the bills. So I had Emily hosting me at Time and Direction. Steve makes a lot of different wines. And when you walk into his tasting room, it's very kitschy. He's a nerd to the nth degree. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff going on. There's old video game stuff happening.
No way.
He is, you would love it. You would love it. Steve Wells is his name. And he makes a lot of different wines. And I love this one just because the label is just really funny. It's called P&S. And if you say the letters P&S in a certain way, it kind of sounds like you're saying.
But his brother's called Peter.
His brother's called Peter. So it's Peter and Steve. And this is...
and his brother did the label.
It's P&S. And it's a rainbow that's sticking straight up.
And is that like a compass in the middle? There's something in the middle.
That's time and direction.
Oh.
That's his whole winery logo. Time and direction. A clock.
Like the fourth dimension.
And a compass. Yes. It's a Syrah. This is from the Eritage Vineyard, which is in Walla Valley. It's 100% Syrah. And Steve says, this is dedicated to my brother. P&S are our initials. This wine is about brothers.
Okay.
But if you say P&S a certain way,
yes, we covered that.
It sounds like you're saying something else.
Yes.
And I think that's where Steve's going with the label and other things. This is a little more, I think this is a little more austere than the first wine. Little.
It is. That's my style. I like that a lot.
A little tight. It's very fruit focused.
It's got good energy though.
A little bit of black olive in there.
It's got a really good energy. It's acid driven.
According to this, it's the best barrel of the 2020 vintage from this particular vineyard. So this wine, they only made one barrel.
Wow.
Do you like it?
I do.
It's got some nice earth on it.
Yeah, it's really, really fresh.
Fresh, energetic.
I mean, it does have a little bit of that earthy funk to it that I also like. Mm-hmm. Maybe more like dead leaves in the dirty ground kind of thing.
When you said fresh, I took a big sip and swooshed it around. It was like, oh, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Feels as though you're kind of cleaning everything else out of your palate and just replacing it with this nice raspberry cherry.
Yep.
It's quite delicious.
It's really clean. And the tannins, I mean, they're there, but it's like pointillism, like very fine tipped pointillism.
I think you might be the first person to have ever said the word pointillism on my podcast.
Put that in the show notes.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Pointillism. Let's talk about what you're working on right now. What is on your hard drive, on your laptop? Who are you talking to? What articles are you working on?
All of them.
All of the articles. Okay. Next page. Who did you talk to most recently about what?
Great question.
I got the great questions. I'm a podcast host. I ask the great questions.
It's so funny because like when I showed up here, I was like, I wanted to come early, but I was on my laptop, like sending emails and stuff. So I had an article come out for Guild Somm on vermouth. Oh, super exciting. Actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go back up to Mendocino and do a little regenerative organic kind of boot camp with some wineries and then the ROC, the Regenerative Organic Alliance that does the certification, and just kind of learn a little bit more about what they're researching and studying and focusing on. I do write a lot about regenerative agriculture. It's like something that's really kind of by accident, but became kind of like a professional and personal passion project. And so one of my recent articles came out in 750 Daily, kind of talking about the financial side of that thing, I guess the wine business, if you will. So I'm super stoked to go up there and see what's going on. And then in April, I'll be in Livermore. They have it's called their Uncorked wine competition. So I'm going to be judging at their wine competition.
It gets so hot there. Livermore Valley.
It's so funny. So I've been to Livermore a couple of times and I did one really great tour a few years back. It is the one place where, it does get warm, but when they tell you that there's like a cool breeze that comes from the San Francisco Bay, there like actually is. I've been to places where they're like, we get this cool breeze at night. And I'm like, yeah, so does everybody. But when I was in Livermore, they were like, look, you can see the bay from here. And I was like, I can smell the ocean from here. They're like, yeah. So even though it's inland and it does get quite warm, they're like the fact that you can see and smell the city from there. I don't mean smell the city like the city, but like you can smell the refreshing water.
There's a crack deal going on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's
the Tenderloin.
There's the 28 I used to take to school. No, so it's actually quite beautiful over there. I was just thinking about this because, like I said, going to Mendocino and then going to Livermore, and I love going to these regions that I think people just kind of forget about sometimes. They're tucked away. And
Mendocino maybe is a little more well known than Livermore. Livermore Valley feels to me like it's one of the sort of also ran regions around us, kind of like Temecula.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I had a conversation a couple episodes ago with the guy that wrote a book about Temecula, and I said, "Why don't we see the wines when we're out in the world?
Yeah,
are they not as good?" He says, "No, there's not as much.
Yeah,
they just sell them."
Yeah.
They don't make very much wine down there.
Yeah.
There's only like 50 some wineries.
I was going to say, I've met a few people that make wine down there, and they all say that it's not only is there not that many wineries, but the wineries are very, very small.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about what you do when you're not writing about the wine industry. What's a quiet night at home like?
Stuff.
Okay.
No.
So are you saying you're a normal person?
No, I would never say that.
Okay. I
I
hope you don't take offense.
I would never say that. No, it's funny because I had somebody ask me that one time. I was at like a networking event and they were like, what are some of your hobbies? And I was like, you mean not wine related? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, let me pause and think a little bit. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, like I majored in English language literature. I'm a huge book nerd, and this is going to sound really weird, but like I exclusively read fiction. Like I don't want to read about the real world when I'm reading.
Yeah, your bio on the Wine Enthusiast webpage says she's often found with a glass of wine in one hand and a book
in the
other. What book did you read last?
Actually, for Christmas, my husband got me it's a sci-fi series called The Expanse, and I guess they made a TV show out of it. And he was like, well, you have to read at least the first 5 before you watch the TV show, because they introduce characters from later on, like way too early in the TV show or something like that. And I also do play a lot of video games. And so I guess they made a video game of The Expanse. And he's like, yeah, read a couple books before you. So I'm reading some of the books in the Expanse series right now. So
you're reading books, hanging out like normal people.
Like normal people. Yeah.
Not regular people.
No, I'm definitely not like regular people. And we live in Sonoma, so like I love to go. Like the other day, I cut out early and I ran to the local trail and hiked up the trail and back and stuff like that. I've got a dog. She likes to play. I've got a cat. She likes to complain. So,
sounds pretty
I've
normal.
got stuff. Yeah, no, never normal.
Let me check the time here. I just want to make sure we've been talking long enough, because I recently heard from one of my listeners, Carl with a K, who listens to the podcast when he's out on a run.
Okay.
And my last episode went a little longer than normal, and he said, I love that it went a little longer than normal because it went through my whole run.
Yeah.
Carl, we're glad you're listening while you're running. Say something to encourage Carl to keep running. Go, Carl, go.
Yeah, Carl, we've got you. We got you, Carl. You go.
Thanks for tuning in, Carl. Thanks for hanging out, Stacy.
Yeah.
I'm going to read the closing credits now.
Okay.
The Tall Mike Wine Podcast was conceived and is written, produced, edited, and maintained by yours truly. To see behind the scenes of the podcast and to see how good I'm getting at creating reels, follow me on Instagram at Tall Mike Wine. If you have a question or feedback or would like your very own set of official Tall Mike Wine Podcast coasters, drop me an email to tallmikewine@gmail.com. If you have a spare few dollars that you'd like to use to help me keep the podcast going and keep it commercial free, please do. You can click the support the show link in the show notes or go to tallmikewine.com. It's simple. It's easy. I appreciate it. If you've not subscribed, you should do that so you don't miss an episode. And I encourage you to scroll back a ways and check out the episodes you may have missed. Go listen to my first conversation with Stacy from a little over 3 years ago. That wraps up for this time. Thank you, Stacy Briscoe, for hanging out. I'm Mike Stone, a.k.a. Tall Mike Wine. Keep swirling, keep sniffing, keep sipping. Cheers.
So, that's the end of the episode. I'm done. You want me to keep talking? Well, I guess I could. Anyway, hey, there's a way for you to get in contact with me. It's kind of a new thing. If you look at your phone right now and you look at the episode description, and right at the top, it says, send me some feedback. If you click on that, you can just send me a text. If you feel wordy, send me a text. Let me know how you like the show. If there's anything specific you like, if there's anything specific that annoys you, I'm open to feedback of any and all kinds, although I prefer the positive kind. Thanks in advance. I'll see you next time. Bye.